Hey, what's up, guys, and welcome back to another episode of the Fairy Fountain Podcast. My name is Den, and I'll be your host. Today, we're going to be discussing my favorite series of all time, The Legend of Zelda. So, let's get right into it. So, as you guys know, last week we discussed Nintendo's 2024 release schedule, and right now it's very barren and bland. We don't know anything about what's going on past late June, which is kind of crazy, because in any normal year, we would have had at least one first-party Nintendo Direct, a general Nintendo Direct as they're called, in either January or February, which would have laid out the first half of this year and probably even releases into early next year. So it's sort of a rare case. Something like this hasn't happened since 2020, where we really don't know what's going on. We do have a few releases coming out in the next couple weeks. So we have Luigi's Mansion 2 HD, Paper Mario: The Thousand Year Door, and Endless Ocean Luminous, all of which come out in the next few months, and in the case of Endless Ocean, in only a few weeks. So we really are in a dead end here. We don't know what's coming. But one thing that Nintendo has seemed to be interested in doing in the Switch era is having one Zelda game a year in most years. There have been a few exceptions. So there's a lot of new avenues for game releases in the Zelda series in the Nintendo Switch era, which are remasters, remakes, indie games, Warriors games. There's so many different ways that Nintendo has brought more to the Legend of Zelda series in the Switch's lifespan. So in 2024, I'd imagine this would be a year that Nintendo would release at least one bigger Zelda project for us to play, aside from things like NSO Virtual Console-esque releases of the classic Zelda games. So that's what we'll be discussing today. And by the end of this video and podcast episode, I'll give you guys my best guess and prediction for what I think will come out this year, even if it seems a little crazy, and then I'll plan and I'll try to give you guys some sort of expectation that seems a little more realistic, so that should be fun. But that brings us into the first aspect of what Nintendo could do with Zelda in 2024. So I quickly want to touch on that somehow, someway, we're already nearly 1 year out from the release of Tears of the Kingdom, which came out last year on May 12th. And that's insane to me, because I can put myself back in the headspace I was in a year ago, waking up each day, checking Twitter, checking Nintendo, refreshing the YouTube channel, waiting for new trailers and information on the game. I remember telling myself we're 1 day closer to Tears of the Kingdom, and that was just such a fun time in my life. I cannot believe that it's already been a year since then. It seems insane. I swear somebody has sped up the flow of time. Someone must have played the Song of Double Time, because I feels like we're only a few short months away from that game just releasing. It's crazy that it's already been a year. But in any case, what brings us to Tears of the Kingdom in this podcast is that game didn't receive any DLC. And for many people, it seemed like a shoo-in that Tears of the Kingdom would get DLC, because Breath of the Wild had it. It added a master mode, it added new outfits, and it added the Trial of the Sword. It was a really nice DLC package, and in the Switch era, Nintendo has seemed to like bringing DLC to their bigger games. But it was revealed in an interview with the developers of Tears of the Kingdom that they have no plans for DLC, and there never were any in the case of Tears of the Kingdom. So it seems like, for once, it's a rare thing these days in gaming, we were delivered a full experience from start to finish as the game was shipped. It was shipped complete, and the developers had no intentions of adding anything else in the form of DLC. And once you get over that initial wave of, wow, that's kind of sad, I would have loved to play more of this game, especially with the amazing experience that Tears of the Kingdom is, it leaves you sort of wanting more just because it's so high quality. You need to sort of appreciate that the developers have just shipped a game in its complete and full state, which is really good for game preservation as things get weird with DLC and physical versions of games, and there's a whole bunch of stuff going around with game preservation in the digital age, but it's just really nice to know that the developers of Tears of the Kingdom brought us such a high quality experience, and that's what it is. We have the full game, and we don't have to worry about anything else coming. The only strange thing there is that Tears of the Kingdom has no master mode, so I wouldn't entirely rule out the possibility of maybe an update. That's one thing we could see this year, maybe in celebration of Tears of the Kingdom being out for a year, Nintendo releases an update that adds master mode. I know that through technicality, that is DLC, as you're going to be downloading content onto the game, but most Zelda games come with a Master Mode, especially in the last few years, and it just seems weird for Tears of the Kingdom to not have one, especially with its crafting, fusing mechanic, where it seems like gold variants of enemies would drop new horns or something at least that Link could fuse to bows or weapons or shields. It seems like a missed opportunity there, and sort of unlike the Zelda team, so I don't think it's impossible that Tears of the Kingdom gets DLC in the form of Master Mode. Like, that's the only way I see it happening, because I take them at their word, and I think Tears of the Kingdom is a beautiful, full experience, as it is. It's not without its flaws, but that game is fantastic, and it really is sort of heartwarming to know that the developers sent the game out to us as intended. Maybe with the exception of a Master Mode. But there's the first thing we could see in 2024. Apart from that, while we're discussing Tears of the Kingdom, Nintendo has introduced Hyrule Warriors to us in 2014 on the Wii U. Hyrule Warriors is a fantastic series which combines The Legend of Zelda and Warrior-style gameplay, which is hack and slash. It's developed by Omega Force and Koei Tecmo in collaboration with Nintendo, and it's basically a way for Nintendo to incorporate large amounts of characters from the whole series in the case of Hyrule Warriors 1, or from a specific Zelda era, like they did with Age of Calamity in 2020. Age of Calamity gave us a new way to play through the world of Breath of the Wild's Hyrule, and it even allowed us to play as all of the main characters from that game. And it was a great experience. If you like Warriors gameplay, not everybody does, I'm one of the people that do, it's so much fun. You get all these crazy flashy movesets, you're taking out thousands of enemies, and there's usually a lot of fun challenges, even outfit changes, especially in the case of 2014's Hyrule Warriors 1. So many nods to the series past, and it just brings together all of your favorite characters in a really incredible way. Such a fun game. It has split-screen multiplayer, which is a rare thing in Zelda games, so I have a lot of fond memories of playing that with my cousin and friends, and I could gush on about Hyrule Warriors. It's one of my favorite things that's ever happened to Zelda as a series, so I think it's possible that Tears of the Kingdom could get its own Warrior spin-off. It might be a little bit of overkill, since only 4 years ago we just had Age of Calamity, Breath of the Wild's Warrior spin-off, but all of the ingredients are there. And Tears of the Kingdom, the main gimmick of the story is that thousands and thousands of years ago, an event took place that went under the name of the Imprisoning War, which it's sort of ambiguous if it's the same Imprisoning War mentioned in like A Link to the Past and such, but nonetheless, Ganondorf is sealed. And leading up to that, Zelda is in the past, and she goes on an adventure of her own where she's basically setting plans in motion for the present that Link is in Tears of the Kingdom. So there are numerous battles that we don't really get to see in Tears of the Kingdom, with Rauru, Sonia, and the Sages, as well as Zelda, the Sage of Time. So there's a really big opening there that they could fill in the gaps that Tears of the Kingdom left. We only see that era of Hyrule in memories and in ruins in the present time during the gameplay. So they could very easily deliver us an experience where we're playing through the Imprisoning War, and the game could even end with Rauru sealing Ganondorf and delivering the line about the swordsman named Link that will meet you far off into the future. I think it could be a really great time, and it's a great way for us to be able to get closer with characters that didn't have a lot of screen time in Tears of the Kingdom. So that's Rauru, Sonia, the Sages from the past, and even Minoru. That was one of the great things that Age of Calamity did. It allowed us to get closer to all of the champions. It gave them playable movesets, which was really, really cool. And it even gave us younger versions of Pura and Robbie. And that game is just fantastic. It also let us play as some villain characters. So there was Master Koga, Guardians, and Suga, which was an original character to the game, one of my favorites. So as you could tell, I love the Warriors Zelda games, and there's a lot they could do there. So that's option number 2. It'd be a little soon, coming right off of Tears of the Kingdom last year, but maybe we could just see an announcement for it, and they say it's coming, I don't know, a few years off into the future. But in general, that's a possibility of a Zelda game we could see in the future, and I think that's really exciting. The next option we have is some sort of indie game event like we saw with Cadence of Hyrule. Cadence of Hyrule is a game that came out in 2019, and it's an indie game. The game was actually revealed in one of Nintendo's Indie World events, and it's a crossover between the game Crypt of the Necrodancer, which is a rhythm-based dungeon crawling, sort of almost roguelike game that stars a character named Cadence, and it has randomly generated overworld aspects and randomly generated dungeons. They combine that with Zelda, and it's one of the best experiences ever. It's such a cool thing that Nintendo was willing to let an indie developer use the Zelda series, and it's just an awesome time. The music and the remixes in Cadence of Hyrule are incredible. It does take a little getting used to the rhythm mechanics, because your character can't even move properly unless it's in tune with the beat. But once you get it, it's really fluid, and it's just a really great musical experience. That game actually even got DLC a few years ago, so it seems like the game was successful enough for them to warrant development of new content for it. So it's not impossible that we could see another indie game, or even just some sort of smaller Nintendo release in the fashion of Cadence of Hyrule. So who knows? I mean, Cadence of Hyrule was definitely a wild card, but it'd be fantastic if we could get any sort of other indie developer, maybe someone from like Way Forward or something, to develop some sort of a side indie game for the Zelda series. It's something that is a big mystery, big question mark there. We don't really know what we could do. It's a loose option, but that's option number 3. It could happen in 2024. Maybe it's not likely, but it could. Now, Zelda has 2 main remake teams as of today, which are Grezzo and Tantalus. So Grezzo has worked on things like Ocarina of Time 3D, Majora's Mask 3D, and the Link's Awakening remake. Grezzo is one of Nintendo's rock-solid, steady developers, and they do a great job. If you played any of those games, you know that Link's Awakening is beautiful, crafted with love. Ocarina of Time 3D is a game-changing experience that launched on the 3DS, and it's just like a tentpole release that Nintendo had back in 2011. Same thing with Majora's Mask 3D. Super exciting, high-quality experience. They've made lots of good changes, and I feel like Nintendo really trusts Grezzo. Tantalus has handled Twilight Princess HD and Skyward Sword HD. So Grezzo is more of like the remake team, and Tantalus is the remaster team. Twilight Princess HD and Skyward Sword HD are more in line with updated ports than remakes, whereas Grezzo has had a little more creative liberty in the art style for Link's Awakening, Ocarina of Time, and Majora's Mask. They're still very identical to the original games, but there's a little bit more creative liberties taken there by them. So that's a good way to differentiate the two. Grezzo makes things that are more in line with remakes, Tantalus remasters and makes things higher quality. So they have all had a little bit of free time there. Grezzo hasn't released a game, at least a Zelda game for Nintendo, since 2019 with Link's Awakening. So it's been 5 years since then, and that's more than enough time for them to move on to another project. Say the Oracle games, Oracle of Ages and Oracle of Seasons. That's something a lot of people have thought about. That's the next game in line chronologically for them to remake if they wanted to just move right down some sort of straightforward Zelda 2D remake path. But there's also another possibility. Grezzo could remake one of the 3DS games again and bring it to Switch, whether it be Ocarina of Time, Majora's Mask, or even something like A Link Between Worlds. One thing that kind of throws a wrench in that idea is the fact that Nintendo Switch Online already allows us to play Majora's Mask and Ocarina of Time on a Switch. They are the original N64 versions though, and those games are so popular and so renowned that it's always a possibility Nintendo could look to want to update them and release them on the Switch again, probably at a luxury price and justify a $59.99 price range. So that is a possibility. If they go the Link's Awakening, A Link Between Worlds route, that's a 3DS game that would be brought to an active platform now that the 3DS closed. So there's lots of options there. And I suppose Grezzo could even make their own 2D Zelda game, which would be the most exciting option for me because we haven't had a brand new original 2D Zelda game in over 10 years. It's been 11 years, actually. A Link Between Worlds in 2013 was the last time we had an original 2D Zelda game, and even that is blurring the line because A Link Between Worlds is sort of a remake, reimagining of A Link to the Past. So Grezzo could get busy and either deliver us a remake, an original game, or bring us the 3DS and 64 games. Who knows what they could do there, but those are some options. And as for Tantalus could maybe remaster something like Link's Crossbow Training. It seems like Tantalus excels at just making HD versions of games that already exist, like they did with Skyward Sword and Twilight Princess. And I suppose they could also put Tantalus up to bringing us Wind Waker HD and Twilight Princess HD straight over from the Wii U, which are ports people are shocked haven't made it to Switch by now. We've been waiting for them for so long, and if those games don't come to Switch this year, then they're definitely happening early next year. They probably should have been here at this point, and they're one of the few exceptions that are stuck on the Wii U. Nintendo's been pretty good about bringing us Wii U games on the Switch, and just the idea of being able to play Wind Waker on a Switch OLED is mouthwatering. That game is so beautiful. It's an incredible experience, and more people need to be able to play it. I feel the same for Twilight Princess HD. That's actually a Zelda game I haven't played yet. I have it on my Wii U, but I've been holding out hope that they'll bring it to the Switch. And I know a lot of people have a lot of respect for Twilight Princess. I haven't played it yet. And, I've been holding out, waiting to play it on my Switch, but it hasn't happened yet. So I'm thinking I might just bite the bullet and play it on the Wii U soon. But I would love if they brought Wind Waker HD and Twilight Princess HD to the Switch. Another option we have here is Nintendo just brings more Zelda games to Nintendo Switch Online. So I'm not even sure if there are any Zelda games left that you can say are retro, but there are the DS Zelda games. So there's Spirit Tracks and the Phantom Hourglass. And it seems like if Nintendo wanted to add another platform to Nintendo Switch Online, the DS would be next in line. And of course, some of the tentpole releases from the DS, aside from the Mario and Pokemon games, are those two Zelda touch-based games. It is interesting to imagine how we would have to control them on our Switch, or even how they would format the dual screens on a Nintendo Switch. Who knows, but if they want to move forward with the Nintendo Switch Online consoles and bring us more Zelda releases, Spirit Tracks and Phantom Hourglass are next in line. Maybe they would give them some sort of traditional control format like they did with Skyward Sword, where they mapped the sword strikes to the right stick and movement to the left. Of course, they could do that, probably with a little bit more work, to Spirit Tracks and Phantom Hourglass. And both of those games are really, really good games. They're slept on. A lot of people throw them away very quickly because they don't like touch controls, but they're actually really intuitive and very fluid, and once you get used to them, it's a very unique and high quality experience, and I don't think they're overly gimmicky. There are a few cases, like in Phantom Hourglass, there's a puzzle where you need to shut your DS, like you literally need to flip the screen closed in order to solve the puzzle, and a lot of people get stuck there. But in a way, it's also kind of ingenious. I don't know. There is an option there. That one seems more unlikely than the rest, but who knows. We could see Spirit Tracks and Phantom Hourglass brought to the Switch. Next up is a new multiplayer Zelda game. So, funnily enough, Zelda and multiplayer releases are actually no strangers. We have a series of 4 Swords games. We've got 4 Swords Adventures, 4 Swords Anniversary Edition, 4 Swords that was included with the Game Boy Advance release, or not Game Boy Advance, the release of A Link to the Past. Sorry about that, guys. So 4 Swords sees Link have 4 cloned versions of himself, and they venture off together, usually in some sort of story that involves Vati from the Minish Cap. They're always pretty good games, but they're not very accessible these days due to the fact that, in the case of 4 Swords Adventure, you need to get 4 people together at a GameCube with Game Boy Advances to play as the controllers for that game, so they're pretty convoluted. But the 4 Swords games are always a lot of fun. I have a lot of good memories with the 4 Swords Anniversary Edition that came out on the DSi, and it's a unique Zelda experience. Multiplayer Zelda games are really overlooked, and the formula actually works really well. when adapted to being multiplayer, I honestly think that Triforce Heroes, which released on the 3DS, is one of the most fun Zelda games, and it gets a lot of hate, but the music in Triforce Heroes is fantastic. You get to put Link in a bunch of different costumes from throughout the series, and you get to play it with 2 other friends. It's a really, really amazing time. Like, you get 2 friends together and just adventure out into the world of, I think it's called Hytopia in Triforce Heroes, and I'm telling you, you guys will have a great, funny time. There's a lot of abilities that come with the costumes. There's like Jester costumes, Magician costumes, a classic Link costume, Archer costumes, even one of Zelda's dresses, like the whole 9 yards. Just get 2 solid friends together that you know you can count on. You have a wonderful time. There's even those reaction stickers you can use, so you can yell at your friends through these stickers with like an angry Link or a sad Link or even a happy Link. Thumbs up Link if they did something good. It's just a really fun time, and I'm hoping to get together with some friends, and I'm hoping to play Triforce Heroes on my own with them. I just actually ordered the game because the close of the 3DS eShop has me wanting to build up a collection again, and I'm pretty stoked at the prospect of playing this game with my friends again, because the bosses in the game are so good. I'm kind of gushing about Triforce Heroes, which is unexpected because a lot of people don't like it, but it's a good time, and I would love if Nintendo could bring Triforce Heroes to, say, Switch Online, or even maybe they just port the game from the 3DS. I guess I'd be okay with that too, but Switch Online has been getting releases of things like Super Mario Bros. 35, F-Zero, and Tetris 99, which are multiplayer-focused releases for the games in those series. So they have you, usually Nintendo Switch Online does like a gimmick with like 100 players, 99, 35, or whatever it may be in the case of F-Zero. But if they wanted to bring us another game that kind of ups the subscriptions for Nintendo Switch Online, why not just do Triforce Heroes, but release it for only Switch Online members and make it so that we can connect with any 3 random people in the world and adventure out into Faron Woods or the Drablands or whatever it may be. I think that would be great. So here's the part in the podcast where I'm going to tell you guys what I, for some reason, seem to believe is the most likely outcome for Zelda's release in 2024. For me, I personally believe it's time for a new 2D Zelda game, like the one I mentioned Grezzo could be developing. Zelda has always had the 2 series coexist, 3D and 2D. Even if 3D is now the widely more popular option, 2D Zelda is what started it all, and 2D Zelda is really where things like dungeons and dungeon items shine. So there's absolutely no reason for them to not continue making 2D Zelda games. And they've had a long break, and really the only person holding 2D Zelda games up has been Grezzo, with their latest release, Link's Awakening, which came out on the Switch a few years back. I think it's time that Nintendo and Grezzo work together and develop a full, brand new story 2D Zelda game with some really cool new gimmicks, beautiful graphics, and really take full advantage of that 2D plane, because there's a lot of fun things you can do with it there. And I just feel like it's time. It's more than time. The 3D Zelda team is probably hard at work making a new 3D Zelda adventure that's years down the line, one that can surpass Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom. So they're not going to have anything ready yet. And the only other option I see being as likely, or maybe even a little more likely, than a new 2D Zelda is just the Wii U games coming over, finally. So Twilight Princess HD and Wind Waker HD. But that's been an inevitability for a long time. We've just been waiting and waiting for those games. They're probably finished and on a server somewhere. Nintendo just needs to release them and make it so we can all play them. For the sake of being a little more interesting and a feeling I have inside my heart, I think it's time for a new 2D Zelda game. Maybe even set in a kingdom outside Hyrule. I just think Nintendo could have a lot of fun with that idea. But I do want to know what you guys think. What are your thoughts on the state of Nintendo's releases in 2024, and what would you most like to see happen with Zelda in 2024? Please let me know in the comments down below, and thank you guys for joining me on another episode of the Fairy Fountain Podcast. That's all for this one, and I'll see you guys next time. Have a great day.